Um, do you see any similarities between Hispanic or Colombian culture and Korean culture? Any similarities?
I do actually a lot. It's kind of shocking to me how similar things are, especially when it comes to the cooking and like the gender roles.
Oh, the gender roles.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like a woman should cook for her man, make sure he comes home to a hot meal, make sure there's always.
Sorry.
Right. This is where the American comes in. You're like, listen, you can cook for yourself, but in that sense, there is that notion where the woman has her role, which is the mother, which is the chef, which is the housewife, the everything. And I think that's kind of similar mindset to what it is in Korea. So I can understand that.
So, I mean, those gender roles are changing in a sense, right? Do you think they're changing in Latin America for the most part? I mean,
Definitely.
Brazil, of course, Brazilians speak Portuguese, but they do have a female president. Do you think those roles are changing in Ecuador, Venezuela, countries that neighbor
Yeah, I can't
Colombia
really speak for like the other countries, but as far as Colombia is concerned,
Right.
it is more acceptable now, or it's more. You can see a lot of women having higher positions, or speaking out, or doing things for themselves, and not just depending on someone to do something for them. So that's definitely something that, thankfully is changing a lot. But you still have the tradition. You still have people that adhere to those roles, especially people that live in rural areas that haven't really been exposed to, everything that's going on now. So you can find a little bit of both, but definitely I think within like 10, 20 years. You'll see kind of like a mini version of the U.S. in Colombia,
Okay, that's interesting. Now we're gonna get a little bit deeper.
Okay.
Now,
Right.
a little bit of colorism mixed in. Do you see lighter skinned Latinos, I guess, blending in with European Americans or European?
Yeah,
people?
it's funny because when you go to Colombia or even in the U.S., like people take pride in speaking about their descent, especially if they're European. It's like, oh yes, I'm Colombian, but my family is European. They're Spanish and this, So like, you see that kind of, and I think it's not something that they do consciously to put down anybody else, but
Right,
they
it's
just
a
take pride.
subconscious.
I think they just take pride in their European ancestry.
Right.
For those that are black, it's almost kind of like we have to, we're proud of it, but then we're also defensive of it.
And
do you know what I mean?
And that's the irony of it. Like, of course, blacks wouldn't be mad for a white person to be proud of their European ancestry. We expect it. It's a natural thing. But just not at the expense of black Latinos and Latinas. It almost seems like, from my experience also, is lighter skinned Latinas, the grand narrative, don't really acknowledge the fact that black Latinos and Latinas exist.
Right.
And it's usually caused by the media, like when
true.
black Latinos and Latinas go to like casting, and they can't fit certain television roles because they're darker.
Exactly.
Any thoughts on that?
Exactly. Like was it like 2001, 2002 or something? We had the first black Colombian beauty pageant winner. And she's from an area called Choco, which is where my mom is born. And that is actually where the slave trade was predominant in Colombia.
Wow.
And I want to say like 90% of the population of that state is black or Indian. But it's also the poorest area, the poorest department in the whole country, the most neglected. And this, woman, she's from that area, and she won Miss Colombia, and then she later went on to represent Colombia in Miss Universe or something like that. And it was huge because she's a dark-skinned Colombian, and up until that point, I don't think people were even aware that even existed.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it was a huge thing. And then there's also another, I can't remember her name, but she's in Univision, or was in Univision. And she is a news reporter that's actually married to a Korean man.
Oh.
Yes. So not only is she black Colombian, she's also married to an Asian man, to a Korean man, which was also huge.
That dynamic of Asian men being.
It was.
That's a whole different.
But aside from those two people, I can't honestly say that I see a lot of, black
representation.
Like female or male in the Spanish culture at all.
And
on TV, media wise.
Right.
Unless it's like music related. Unless it's like music or dance related.
Right, entertainment.
Right.
Another thing with that is that growing up, I didn't see enough white Haitians. or lighter-skinned Haitians. And so I just wonder if it's a human characteristic to when you're socially programmed to see a certain race, that you tend to not associate you tend to other people.
Right.
So like when I met a first white Haitian, I was actually surprised. And it took me aback because, you know, here I am as a young kid constantly trying to explore the group dynamics, and I was caught by my own prejudice, you know. So that was quite shocking, and it just made sense. The majority that has the power controls representation in the minority, regardless of what color it is. And it isn't to say that if blacks were the majority, we would control the whites. I'm not saying that at all. But it is quite interesting how group dynamics kind of programs your mind.
Yeah, like the funny thing to me is that in my family, I mean, I have family members that are, you know, white with blue eyes. I have people that are dark. I have people that are Indian looking. Like it's a mixture.
It's all mixed.
So that's quite normal to me. But then we also have a distinction of like, for example, if you're a black woman and you have like you know, your nose is not as wide or your lips are not as wide, you're a negra fina.
Negra fina.
Negra fina. Negra fina is like a classy, you know, very, you know, nice looking woman. Do you know what I mean?
Does class have to do with that at all?
Not class, like your physical. Like,
just
I guess it's like your facial features. You know, if you don't have, you know, the wide nose or the big lips or anything like that, you know what I mean? Then you're a negra fina. Like my hair, you know, like if your hair is not really that tight, you're a negra fina.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So you have that distinction within the community as itself, you know what I mean? So it's interesting how we kind of like classify ourselves, or we put ourselves in categories.
Yeah, you know? definitely. And we justify horrible things with those categories. I mean, humans have the potential to do anything, but yet we use these, you know, very insignificant things to put each other down. And you know, the next question that I have is Haitians and Dominicans have a complicated relationship and history. With Colombia, is there any neighboring countries that have a similar tension, I guess?
I think it's everyone. We have a problem with everyone, especially because
and everyone as in Latin America?
Well, I think, especially the neighboring countries, because of Liz Paz, you have the guerrillas, you have the drug dealing, unfortunately. So that complicates our relationship with pretty much all the people that we're surrounded by. You know? And the fact that we do have a big alliance with the U.S. also puts us in a weird place.
Right, that's true. You're right next to Venezuela. The relationship with Venezuela and America. So foreign policy.
So that kind of complicates our relationship with, you know, especially like, you know, Venezuela.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but it's reality, you know.